Good morning, my ghouls and goblins. You doing, Connor?
Doing fantastic.
It's another surprise morning edition of Reely Scared. This is something new that's appeared in our lives. The sun's coming in through the blinds. I feel so exposed, like you turn the lights on and all the cockroaches scatter. I'm like, ah! I turned on my webcam and I had to like recalibrate it because the sun hitting my vampiric skin tones threw off the white balance. Yeah,
because I'm naturally pale, very pale, and then the sun is just coming in. So if I'm too bright, just let me know. I might be just like a white screen at this point.
You're sparkling. You look Cullen-esque over there. It's brilliant.
Yes,
it looks
That's
great.
What I was going for, honestly.
It's beautiful. Yeah, we are typically children of the night, but not this time. Not in this special little surprise edition of Reely Scared, which is ordinarily the weekly horror movie podcast, where every single week we're joined by a special guest to discuss a film of their choosing, mixing it up a little bit this week. As you know, we have been talking about our Saint Maud episode all month, and we keep saying like, oh, we might have a little surprise. We'll see. Might have something a little special for that one. And here it is. We can finally tell you what's so special about it is that we do have a guest. We are going to be joined by Lily Knight, one of the stars of the film, and that's such a huge, exciting opportunity. We've been talking about this movie for what, like the entire run of the show at this point. Like we can't wait to see Saint Maud.
Almost a year.
Yeah,
talking about Saint Maud, and I finally saw it.
Wow. Finally saw it. I feel like a running bit was like Alok Mishra coming in every single time. And he was like, "Wait,
we get to see Saint Maud.
Wait, so you fuckers see Saint Maud? It's gonna blow your mind." He was right.
Yeah, he was right.
He was right. It was so worth the wait. And so while we've been doing this new format in 2021, where it's all, you never know what we're going to talk about. It's mixing things up, and we haven't been doing new release films as much lately. This one just we could not.
We had to do it.
We could not help ourselves. We had to talk about Saint Maud. We had to take control of the show. We had to, and here we are. We have this amazing opportunity and wonderful surprise. I'm so excited, and I think we may as well just rub the sleep out of our eyes. Shake the cobwebs off. We each got our extra strong morning coffee, so we're ready to do it. Really good. What's like Good Morning America? Like Good Morning
Good morning, ghouls.
Good morning. Yeah, I guess that's what we say. Good morning, ghouls and goblins. It's great. It's great to greet them. The first thing you do when you wake up, you just roll over. The ghouls and goblins are right there next to you,
waiting for you to get out of bed.
Yeah, they're just they got the toast popping out of the toaster. They're ready to have a little breakfast chat with you. And then lastly, I'll preface this by saying, as I feel like I always have to now, as for a while as we do the show, I could just disappear at any moment. Now, this is pre-recorded, so we might be able to cut around from it. But if you're listening, if you're watching, and I just freeze up, disappear, something terrible happens to me, I'll come back in a second. We'll see. My next campaign is going to be harass Spectrum to fix my internet. That's going to be the next one for me.
Good luck.
Yeah, I think we're both riding that train a little bit, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to it. Let's get to the main event here. Joining us to discuss the new horror film, Saint Maud, is the wonderful Lily Knight.
Woo-hoo! Hello.
Hello.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. It's amazing.
Yes. How are you, Lily? We're so excited to have you here.
Yeah, really good. Thanks for waking up so early.
It's really not that early here.
Not that early.
We're just night owls who stayed up past our bedtime.
I mean, same.
First thing I want to know is, as we were kind of talking about it here, it took a little bit for this movie to come out, as it did for all things this past year. How does it feel that people are finally getting to see this film, especially in the States where movie going has just been absolute chaos lately? How does it feel like? I'm sure you've been sitting on this knowing like, oh, this thing is great, and I want people to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since the initial audition stage to this, and America finally seeing it. It's been so long. And I have to say, I've sort of enjoyed that it's been so spread out. Normally it's just a little bit quicker, so it sort of comes and goes in like a flurry, and then that's it, on to the next. But this has been such a slow burner, and more. It felt like the anticipation has served the film quite well in a way. I've really enjoyed it. I'm loving it, and it still feels like it's in the thick of it in a way. And like, you know, I'm really excited. It's so great.
Yeah, it certainly kind of generates its own hype, right? It's the anticipation of seeing this thing again and again and again, and God, it lived up to the hype. This thing is a powerhouse of just a aggressive psychological horror film. I never really seen anything quite like this one. Which, as two guys who do a horror movie show, you know, we see a lot of them, and there is kind of a tendency for them to start feeling familiar. But my goodness, I've never seen anything like it. It's like a bizarre.
I know like 1 second of a movie could be so traumatizing, but final second, I was just like, wow.
I know, you're just like, what? Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. But I mean, also obviously I read this script and everything loads of times, but when you see the final edit, even if you're involved in it, there are moments just like, oh my God, mind blown. And I've always really loved horror as well. So it's been, I mean, although sometimes I don't really even, I think it's obviously horror on some level, but it also isn't in another way. But I think it's wicked. I'm really glad you liked it.
It's almost like a reverse possession film in a way, which is, again, you feel like, we've seen, ghost movies, like, things like The Exorcism, and those things feel familiar, but it's like this almost strange, and usually sort of the Judeo-Christian Catholicism interpretation of God and the church is like used to combat the evil in the film. Whereas this, it's like, that is where the tension's coming from. It's coming from the other side. This woman who's sort of hearing and seeing these holy, perhaps visions or voices or are they delusions, and walking that line. It was just, God, what a fascinating, scary.
Totally. Religion is so unlike the presence of God in films. It's so often the sanctuary and the place where you might find like relief in some way, and this just so flips it on its head that you don't quite know what to trust, who to trust, what's real, what's not, whether things are happening or they're happening in her mind, and it makes you question the whole thing. Really, it's exciting.
Yeah, and I think your character Joy actually really emphasizes kind of how tragic what we're seeing unfold is. Everybody is kind of living in the, it's Maud's in every scene, and so it's all revolving around Maud and the kind of world that she set up and her own view of it. And then Joy enters and feels like she's coming from from a normal world, from the real world, to kind of interrupt this day-to-day madness that we are seeing unfold, and kind of, emphasizes that things were perhaps normal for Maud once, and maybe there's even hope that they could become relatively normal again. I'll avoid spoilers because this is a relatively new film, and everybody should see Saint Maud, and it bears not being spoiled. But I think your character adds so much to the film, really makes it hit all the more harder.
I agree. I think Joy's character grounds it in some way into reality, and it's not, you don't just watch the sort of decline of one woman and in a fantastical way. You realize that she's like real, and she's really lonely, and she's she had a real job and she's really caring for someone, and actually people are really not necessarily safe. I won't say anything more. I don't want to ruin too much,
So you did mention that you are a horror fan, but there's not really anything quite like Saint Maud in your filmography.
No.
Did you have to get out of your comfort zone to finally do a psychological horror film?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I think you look. I think I've always been like a voyeur of horror films. I've always watched them and always enjoyed how they make me feel, and how and like all of the tiny bits of symbolism and stuff that go in, and the forecasting and all of the stuff that I love all of that, and the way that you can stay with you, I find is so fun. But no, it didn't. That working on it didn't really change my process. And also I think particularly because Joy isn't someone that's like, haunting someone or out to kill someone or whatever it might be. Like she is, an NHS nurse who is probably in her core really just worried about someone.
Yeah.
And so I think that I sort of try to cling on to, and as much as possible. She's like, I think everyone can empathize with people who are lonely. And I think that is such like characters and people in life that are really lonely. I have terrible amounts of compassion for. I feel like there's probably nothing worse than feeling truly, truly isolated and alone. And yeah, obviously I love horror, but and I haven't done any of it before. But I think when you're tapping into a character, you have to think about the human sides of them rather than the other bits more than anything.
It's got to be exciting because I mean, this is an A24 film, and they're responsible for some of the most like iconic like recent horror films with The Witch and Hereditary, Midsommar, all of those. They have like a really strong, passionate community and following. Is it exciting that now that you've done horror, it's an A24 film?
I know. I have to say, I mean, I've watched all of those films, and I really love A24. I always have. And when I knew that they were going to be a part of this, I still can't quite get my head around it. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a small part in that. I'm still trying to because I am genuinely a massive fan of A24 and the films that they've produced.
Yeah.
And I just think it is like nuts. I keep on being like, oh my God, this amazing film and then I'm like, oh, that I'm a small part, but it's a small cast, so it is mind-boggling. And I can't believe I'm a part of the back catalogue of the things they've been involved in, because I think their films are sick. Quite frankly.
Yeah, and all interpretations of the word, I'd say perhaps they can be quite sick. And this one included. So have you been sounds like a horror fan for a while?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I film in general, obviously, but yeah, I have. I've got, all the Hereditary, Midsommar. I always never know quite how to pronounce it, but Midsommar. All of a lot of the A24 films I've watched, and I've watched lots of other horror films as well. We were talking about them last night, actually. My family, we were all sitting around the table talking about horror, and my dad was like, "I just don't really get scared," and I was like, "As if, come on!" And then I was like, "Well," and then I listed some scenes that I had found that had really affected me or had stayed with me. And actually one that comes to mind immediately is in Paranormal Activity, where the girlfriend stands up in the middle of the night and walks around the bed and stands over and fast forward is like and next to her partner, and he's like, why did you do that? And she's like, I don't know, I don't remember. And I just remember thinking that was such a clever way of creating like fraction between the relationship and distrust, and that is just horrible, so haunting. And also the fact that it was just so often the scary things happened in the daytime. It's like doesn't make you feel safe in the light, and normally horror is so often scary in the dark. So anyway, I love horror. I think it's great. I'm just very, very happy and lucky that I'm involved in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And by all means, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't know if there's anything quite like this in your body of work thus far. No. I'd love to know what the process kind of was getting in something so intense like this.
Well, I mean, basically the set was very, very jolly. I was just saying it's not, it doesn't really take any different type of psychological shift, I suppose. I think you have to know exactly what you're adding to the job as a whole picture. You have to be able to see the whole thing and like the whole vision of the piece. But I think when you read the script, it's like the first time I read it straight away again. And I think Rose, to her credit, she's a genius. It's very clear. Like, I mean, it's even better than the script. You know what I mean? It was like really came to life. But you knew that you weren't going in there to be like, you knew you were going in there with a certain energy, basically. But everyone also on, and I haven't done, as you say, other horror, but I've heard that on other sets, often the funniest, jolliest, most silly sets are the ones that the scariest afterwards. But everyone was just so supportive and so kind, so that and I turned up for my 2 or 3 days shoot, just like, hi, had a nice time.
Yeah. You mentioned Rose Glass, who you would never guess. This is her debut feature film as a director. I can't imagine. You'd never ever guess. She's done a couple years of shorts, and then you watch this, and like you said, the vision is so clear. You would never guess that this was somebody's first time sitting down with a feature. I would love to know what it was just like working with Rose Glass, because I think clearly we're going to be a director that we're talking about for quite some time here.
Totally. I mean, I think she's got a really, really exciting career ahead of her. She totally deserves everything. I think she's brilliant. And working with her was, I suppose, exactly as you'd imagine, like heavenly. I don't excuse the pun. But she's, I mean, it's very obvious when she comes across in like interviews and press stuff that she's done, that she's just kind and intelligent. And those are probably the 2 words that I've used to describe how the way she directs, is that she's firstly brilliant at making everyone feel like they're really, really good at their job. So she'll get the best out of everyone. Mm-hmm. But she's also just really smart. Like, I think that's so evident in the fact that this is her debut. You've got to be a real smart cookie to do this and to have that vision, and to be able to pull the right people together as well to aid her vision. But she was brilliant to work with on set. Like, we also had rehearsals, which was so lucky, and we really got into the nitty gritty of where the characters had come from, the work they'd done together, their shared past and history. And we properly chatted about it. And then we went over and over things, and the moments that, our characters come together and are further apart, and, what the space is like. And she's really thorough. And she's also just like, a smiley, hilarious, funny, wicked woman. She's a powerhouse. I really hope she absolutely kills her career. It's gonna be great.
I think there's no doubt about it. I mean, once people really get an opportunity to see this film and see what she's capable of, it's remarkable. This is definitely somebody who should be getting more stuff made coming out of this, for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a great film. And you also mentioned, you share all of your scenes in this film with Morvith Clark, who is really putting on one hell of a performance in this film. It's asking a lot of her. What was it like sharing scenes with her? What was was there a lot of preparation beforehand? Were you able to just kind of go out there and just feel it out, or what was the process like working together?
Well, I mean, I actually knew her before we started filming. So she went to the same drama school as me, and she knows, like, we have shared friends, and I didn't know her very well, but it was very much like sort of like, hi old friend feeling on set. Even if obviously it's all very everyone's always very lovely on set anyway, but it did feel like I was hanging out with a maid. And also she's done definitely considerably more than me, so it's also really nice to feel like you're sitting with a friend, working with a friend, interacting, doing the same take over and over and over again, with someone that you can also learn from. And I have absolutely zero ego about thinking like, hey, what's she doing at this point, and how am I listening to her in this, and just learning from her. And she's brilliant. She's so, very similar in terms of my feeling towards working with Rose. She's so kind, so funny, hugely talented. I think she's really, I mean, she's already doing remarkably well, and I think again she's another person we're going to watch do more and more and more and more and more. But yeah, she's a joy to work with, totally. And I'm like, come on, let's do something else.
Yeah.
I want to do more. And
Yeah.
I mean, that was actually something that was very sweet on set. Everyone was like, I can't believe you're only in these 2 bits. Like, it feels like you should come back again, or you should, you know, there should be other moments basically between them. And then there's that phone call. I mean, actually, I don't know how much I should say on this, but there's a phone call as well. There was lots of discussion about whether that should be written out a bit more, but I don't think it needs it. Just, but she was a joy to work with, total joy.
Something I've noticed, you know, we talk about these very harrowing movies, and then once in a while we do have the opportunity to speak with people involved in the production of them. It seems like the more twisted and upsetting that they are, the sweeter the people are that are involved. It's so interesting to like pick their brain, and they're just like the nicest, most unsuspecting people when you watch their work. It's just gore and nightmares, you know. It sounds that's true for this one too.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you. It's so funny. Like, I mean, historically, I've like watched films and I've been like, Christ, the person who made that must have been really like, I mean, where do you? And then I just think 5 seconds about like if you had to imagine some really, really dark stuff.
Yeah,
you can if you allow yourself to be. And I often think it's the people who can be, you know, the most like open or whatever that can imagine and dream up the most horrible things. Not that they would ever do it in real life. But yeah, it was very much that on set. Everyone was, you know, so lovely. And yeah, it's great. I'm glad. I keep on telling everyone. I think maybe I'm a bit skewed, but when some of my friends have been like, "Oh, you know, Lils, I really want to watch it, but I genuinely, I won't be able to sleep. I can't. I don't think I can watch horror." And I'm just like, "Oh my god, guys, it's really not that bad." Like, I was like, the trailer probably shows you the worst bits. Like, don't worry about it. And then they've watched it and they text me afterwards, being like, were you joking? Are you taking the piss? And they've been like, I was behind a blanket the whole way through. You tricked me into watching it. And they'll be way more affected. But I think it's because my experience of it was so not what the experience of people first watching it was, that I can't see it now as like 100% horror.
Yeah. There is a bit in this. And again, I'm not going to speak too deeply into it for the sake of spoilers, but as somebody who watches a lot of horror films, I'll just say the shoes. Oh my!
I know, you're like, no.
Oh my god! I was just recoiling in my bedroom. Just you gotta. Oh my god!
I know, awful, and the sounds. Oh.
Yeah, the sounds do it for me. I was just like,
ooh.
Totally. It's so. I know, it's so good. Like, yeah, I think that's. I mean, even actually in the opening, I think this is okay to speak about because it's literally just the opening. But the boiling soup, I thought it was such a great way to that's just a tiny moment, and it's just like the sounds of it was so like visceral and fleshy. I don't know for a better word, but do you know what I mean? And I feel like the shoes are similar. There's a sort of similar vibe.
Yeah, it's a visceral movie, and it very surreal and dreamlike, and plays that psychological angle of, you know, not being sure as the viewer where you land in the film. You know, you see Maud's perspective, you kind of see people get a chance to react to her, and it really doesn't relent on whether you're experiencing something divine or supernatural, or whether you're just, you know, unfortunately sat with this person who is sort of mentally declining as they fall into their own delusions. And I just love those kinds of horror films. They're something a little more up to your own interpretation, and it's a little more ambiguous. I think it's harder to find your bearings in a story like that, and it's less predictable. And so it really relies kind of on what you project onto it at the same time as what it's projecting onto you, and the terrible nightmares it's going to give you.
I love it when films work in duality like that. Like speaking about my friends again, when I say, oh, you should watch it, if it's people that are affected more by horror, I say it's really more about the decline of one woman's mental health. And then to people who really love horror, I'm just like, it's supernatural. It's as long as I said, in some way, I sort of like just the way you can understand the film, but it is great that it has this sort of ambiguity about it, and that you're constantly doubting your own understanding of what's happening to Maud. So you're like, at one point you might think, oh, this poor woman who's basically not been supported by anyone, family, friends, government with her job, or etc. And then also you think, oh wait, but is this happening to her? Is she being in some way told to do these things? Like where is her intention coming from? Is this like a legit palliative care, or it makes you question everything. And I think that when films are really good, it doesn't have a clear answer. I love ambiguity in horror for sure.
Yeah, because we're following someone pretty unreliable, so we don't know what's going on. Because the whole time after it ended, I watched it with my fiance, and she was like, I don't think any of that happened. And I was like, but her face, did you see her face? So yeah, it's like two different like reactions.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I haven't heard that. That's great.
And I love those kinds of movies because it creates discussion.
Yeah,
about
totally.
what actually happened. So
yeah, I really, really love films that don't spoon feed the audience and say, and I like the ones that sort of make you want to guess what's happening throughout it. Like what's the Mulholland Drive? Do you ever watch that? I've literally watched that about 20 times, trying to figure out, like, my annoying sort of like primitive human brain is like, okay, let me just try and get to the bottom of this. But it does. I like films that do that, and make you have a good old natter at the end of it, and like question what is or isn't real.
Yeah. I think that can be a challenge sometimes, and I don't mean that it's challenging in the way that maybe some people can't take it. Not so much that, but there's definitely a different experience cinematically happening there between audience and film that not all movies have, which is okay. But when you really see a movie that's pulling it off, and believes wholeheartedly in it, it is different. The way that it makes you feel. You mentioned Mulholland Drive. I mean, that's David Lynch. That's like the master of that, right? And he's the guy who's like never going to explain what it is, almost to a fault.
I know. You're like, explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I love that film.
I would love, we've kind of talked about this film, obviously, but I would also love, Lily, just to kind of hear your journey to acting and what first interested you and kind of inspired you to go that way.
Well, I mean, basically, when I was very, very little, I have 4 sisters, and so we were all like mad keen on being like da, 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 here's a nativity when we were really little. And then when I got into school, I had quite a short attention span, I think. I really, really liked either being outside running around like a maniac or being on stage. And I have always loved stories. And there's a very, very simple sort of response to this, but like my family are all very anecdotal. We spent a lot of time in Italy growing up, and it's very much like around a table telling stories, like everyone's sort of jumping up and not afraid to be quite performative and like silly, basically, and like laugh at ourselves. And I think that was sort of inherent in my upbringing. But I just did play after play after play after play at school. And then I remember when I was like 11, I heard on the radio that they were looking, this casting director was looking for twins to for a Channel 4 show, and I like ran up to my mum and I was like, well, obviously I'm auditioning. And she was like, and I am a twin, by the way. Francesca she's also an actor. And she was like, yeah, okay, if you really want to. Anyway, I basically begged until she actually drove me to Birmingham, and we did an audition, and then we got down to the last 2 sets or something, and then didn't get the leads but got another part. I mean, probably because the casting director felt sorry for us. But the whole thing really started a love of it, and wanting and suddenly realizing like, oh, actually maybe I could basically have a laugh for a job rather than sitting in front of a computer all day, which I wouldn't have been able to do, I don't think. I mean, I remember that a woman came in to tell us what we could be when we were older or something. You had to answer loads of questions. And I can't express to you how bad I am at maths. Like, it's not a joke. I've really tried. And I actually find it fascinating. It's not even like I don't like it. I'm just not good at it.
Yeah.
Try to change that prophecy, but we'll see. But and she said I should be an accountant, and I just remember getting the giggles. Like, I literally couldn't stop laughing, just being like, oh my god, this is so incorrect. Like, I can't imagine anything worse for my personality type. But yeah, and then I remember I also saw a Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat on stage, and there were loads of children in brightly colored t-shirts, and I thought, what the hell? Like, why am I not one of the children in the background? And I'm being really like what? Like, to my parents, being like, I can't believe you didn't get me up there. And they were like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize. But yeah, so then it just went from there really, and then school and uni and drama school and auditioning lots and just ta-da.
Yeah. Not an accountant. You proved her wrong.
Yeah, not an accountant. Yeah, I wonder where she is now, thinking, wasn't good that day.
Yeah, someone needs to reassess her abilities. Maybe that wasn't the profession for her.
Yeah, totally.
So had you done any theater work or stage work at all, acting?
Yeah. I mean the majority, I would say, of my like training up until post drama school was theatre, and had conservatoire training at Drama Centre, and the my focus is always on going to plays and going to theatre in London like non-stop growing up, and reading plays and sitting in play bookshops and and like trying to write plays and or write scenes at least. So yeah, I mean, like, it's always been a massive part of my my whole life, really. And I've been really, really lucky, to be honest. Like, I think that I find going to the theatre is like an incredible privilege. It's not easy for a lot of people to go and to get there, or to feel like they're welcome, or like these big intimidating buildings are for them. And I'm so incredibly lucky and privileged to have been able to have been like taken by my school or like taken by my family, and then to feel like I had the agency to go as I got older by myself. And it's so, like, I just remember there are moments in my childhood, like being really, really young, where I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm really lucky to be here. Like, I remember I watched The Life of Galileo on stage at the National, and I think I was actually at 16 or something, 16, 17 or something. And I just remember being like, Simon Russell Beale is a genius. And he moves across stage like Bambi, except, when Bambi's flying, like in the best way ever, like amazing. And just really being like, I'm so lucky. Like the way that theatre can transport you to places is remarkable, and teach you things and open your consciousness is just like so lucky. I just want everyone in the world to be able to experience it. So I'm gonna endeavor to do that.
Yeah.
Was your goal to be in theater getting into acting, or was the goal always, eventually films?
I mean, the goal still is now to do both. Always to do both. I mean, obviously, like TV and film right now because of COVID is happening, and theatre is not happening. And I feel like I think I share a mindset with like every actor who's done theatre. There's a great sadness that theatres aren't open, and that, or at least, I mean, they're essentially not open, and that that lots of theatres going to be closing across the world, not just our country. It's like a real sadness, and like I don't know. I mean, I obviously I'm so lucky to be able to be auditioning and working in TV and film, and I hope that lasts forever and keeps going and builds and gets, I do much more. But I also hope that theatre, doesn't die a death, and it comes back with full of vengeance, and those that can support it do, and that maybe the government gives lots of funding so that it doesn't fall apart. But because I do think it's important. Like last year I can't remember. Last year, I did. Oh no, it wasn't last year. Oh my God, the year's gone. The year before last year, it's terrifying. The year before last year, I did The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, and that went to across the whole of the UK. And it was just like, we were doing theatre to whole audiences of children with autism and Asperger's, and I just thought, like, over this last year, that it is such a shame that all of those people that we did that sort of show to aren't experiencing that show now. And of course, like, they might well be if this massive pandemic hadn't stopped everything. But I just hope that when things do start coming back again, that theatre is supported in the right way, so that they are, basically.
Right. It's been such a shame to see just how certain industries and art forms have been impacted by this past year, and trying to figure out how to put the pieces back together. It's God, it's tough.
Hard job. It's tough. It's really hard. I mean, I'm thrilled that like TV and film are still going ahead. I mean, like, it's amazing shoots can happen, and that everything is distance. Like, I've done a couple of shoots where there's literally been a guy with a 2-meter long pole keeping everyone apart from each other. They're like the COVID controller. I mean, that's great. And also obviously it reaches so many people, which is amazing. And it's great that so many TV shows and films are being watched. Like, literally, I mean, my parents they watched an entire series last night. An entire series. And I was like, wow, that's 6 episodes, big. And they were like, well, we just couldn't stop. There's nothing else to do.
Which in a way, I think will give more people an opportunity to see this movie, perhaps, because you're there, you're looking for something new, and here's this crazy new horror film that's going to be so accessible in people's homes now, because I don't think we mentioned already, but it's actually streaming on Epix, which was a interesting place to see it land, because I don't think they've done a lot of sort of original content or horror content. So it's a great opportunity to check them out. And obviously you can do, like anything else these days, you can do a little free trial first and see how you like it. But at the very least, you can watch Saint Maud, which I implore everybody.
I told Mike, I think immediately after the movie ended, I posted about it, and I had like 5 or 10 people like ask me, like, is it worth it? And I was like, yes, just get a free membership and watch this movie now.
And then cancel the membership.
But even if you couldn't do that, I mean, for real, because some of these movies do just drop and they're like, hey, you got to pay the price and you can watch it in your home. If that were the scenario, like, it's worth the price of whatever the price of admission is for wherever you are and how you want to watch it. The film is absolutely worth it. It is
yay.
It is an intense experience, unlike anything. I mean, again, as the 2 guys doing the horror movie show, this one really sticks out. Yay.
I'm so glad you guys liked it.
Yeah. For as long as we've waited, I think it absolutely lived up to the hype, which not easily done, because it was very, very hyped for us.
Yeah, that's always the worry, isn't it? That when you are told a film is like amazing, it's going to blow your mind. It's like, and then people say it's absolutely incredible, but I won't say anything else. And you're like, oh, well, you said it all now. Basically, it's very hard for things to live up to the expectations. So I'm really glad it wasn't ruined for you in any way.
No, not at all. Only intensified by the anticipation for the last several months, finally getting to see this thing. Lily, I know you mentioned being on set, and obviously that I'm sure that works a lot differently right now with all the new guidelines and things like that. Is there anything coming up that you're able to share with people that we can see in?
Well, I've actually had a shoot postponed because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to be filming a Sky Arts show. I'm not actually sure how much I'm allowed to say, but that I'm actually doing with my sister, and we're playing two not very nice women. And that's all probably I can say. But that should be out, and I'm quite looking forward to that. And otherwise, I'm auditioning lots, and hopefully something great sticks any sec, basically.
I see no reason that it shouldn't. You're terrific in the film,
Mm-hmm.
and I absolutely look forward to it. Sounds like you get to be kind of on the, perhaps, again, you can't say too much, but you might get to be on the villainous side of things in this next one, which will be really exciting to see, because like we said, you get to be kind of the normalcy anchor of the film of here's somebody who's got their own life and things are going well, and they're not being, haunted by supernatural premonitions and death and gloom, so it'd be interesting to see you maybe perhaps on the other side of the coin coming up here. I'm looking forward to that.
It's so fun playing the villain. I think it's like playing things that are like, you hope that are far from yourself is really fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, if we haven't said it enough here, let's say it again. You have to check out Saint Maud. It's absolutely fantastic. It's disturbing. It's scary. It is haunting. And those are all good things to be when we're talking movies on this show. I don't know about other shows. That's high praise on this show. We love that. So check it out. Go. If it's I don't know if it's in a theater near you. Who knows anymore? I don't know. If it is and you can see it that way, do your thing. If not, it's streaming on Epix right now, so you have no reason to not go. Just sign up and check it out right away. I very much recommend it. Lily, it's been such a joy talking to you, and no pun intended.
It's been a joy to speak to you guys too.
Where are you? Can people find you out there on social media or anything? Where can people keep up with Lily Knight right now?
You sure can. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm Lily Knight Official, I think. And Instagram. It's Twitter actually. Lilzy Knight. A lot of my family and friends call me Lils or Lilzy. And so when I started Twitter, that's what stuck. Instagram's really where I'm at mostly.
Perfect. I'll make sure to throw the links in the description here so everybody can find you real easily. Lily, once again, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Love the film and can't wait to see you and more going forward. It's been great. Thank you, Lily. And then thank you to all the wonderful ghouls and goblins at home who have watched or listened in. Always a pleasure. Thank you. And go watch Saint Maud. Usually we say stay spooky or good night, but now I just feel like good afternoon. Have a nice day. What's good, my ghouls and goblins? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to this awesome episode with Lily Knight from Saint Maud. Isn't she the best? Isn't Lily just delightful? We had a great time speaking with her. She's amazing. And the film, Saint Maud, if you haven't seen it yet, you really owe it to yourself to check it out. It's streaming over on Epix right now. So go check out Saint Maud and let us know what you think, because I thought it was a terrific film. Probably going to be one of my favorites of this year. This being the last episode of February, it is now tradition on the show to tell you what we're doing next month to release our March calendar, and we have so many good episodes coming up. Once again, do we do anything else on this show? No, we always have great guests, always have great movies, and we're going to keep that running through March. So let's jump into our March calendar and tell you what you guys have to look forward to. Next week, next Thursday, March 4th, we're going to be joined by none other than the co-founder of this very channel. He is the co-host of Real Talk and Spin from the Real. He is the master himself, Matt Thomas, coming back to Reely Scared to talk about one of his favorite horror films, Jordan Peele's Get Out. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a big one. We actually haven't had anybody from the channel join us as a guest in this new format. This is going to be the first time we've done that. So really excited to have Matt come hang out with us and talk about Get Out, which, to my surprise, this isn't streaming anywhere. Can you believe it? Why does nobody have Get Out in their library? Come on. But of course, it's available on demand everywhere. If you're a horror fan, I'm sure you've seen Get Out umpteen times already. You probably already own a copy. In any case, though, Get Out next week. Can't wait to talk about that with Matt. The following week, well, this one I'm personally interested in for sure. We're going to be joined by MetaZoo. Who's MetaZoo, you might say? MetaZoo is this really cool new trading card game inspired by cryptozoology, urban legends, myths, things of that sort. And if you've been listening to Connor and I, you know that we're big fans of that kind of stuff. That's what we talked about in Really Drunk last year. So MetaZoo is going to be joining us to talk about their new game, their cards, how the game works, where you can get them. Oh my gosh, there goes my mail on the back thing. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. We'll keep rocking with it. Who cares? MetaZoo is going to be joining us to talk about their game and the Mothman Prophecy, the Richard Gere film, which is available on Starz right now. If you've got their streaming service, you can watch that on Starz. And again, like anything else, VOD. You can watch the Mothman Prophecies that way. I think that's quite an underrated movie. I don't know how you feel about it, but I can't wait to talk about the movie, the game, cryptids, and Mothman in general. I love talking about that kind of thing. So March 11th, MetaZoo will be joining us to talk about the Mothman Prophecies. Awesome, awesome show. The 18th, March 18th, we're going to be joined by none other than, you might know him from the movie trivia Schmodown, JTE, Little Evil, from the Finstock Exchange. We're going to be talking about the Tales from the Crypt film Demon Night on March 18th. Demon Night. We haven't really talked about Tales from the Crypt in any significant capacity that I can think of on this show. So that's going to be a really cool new conversation to have there with JT. I mean, that's a huge guest for us. So we're so excited he'll be joining us to talk about Demon Night. Again, not streaming readily anywhere that I could see, but it's out there on VOD. Maybe you've got a copy of it. Kind of a classic. Demon Night on the 18th at JTE. And hey, we're going to keep the Finstock Exchange love moving. It's like we're biased towards that Schmodown faction for some reason. I'm not sure why that would be. Because on March 25th, we're going to be joined by none other than Gold Leader Evan Bushkar, one of the Star Wars competitors from the movie trivia Schmodown. Evan's going to be joining us to talk about Mike Flanagan's Gerald's Game on March 25th. Gerald's Game. That's a Netflix joint. That's where you can find it right now. I don't think you can really watch it anywhere else. Maybe they made a physical copy of it at some point, but that's on Netflix. Gerald's Game, adapted from the Stephen King novel. And oh man, that is a great, gruesome movie. I've only seen it one time, and I was content with maybe never seeing it again. Not because it's not a good movie, but because, man, it has got a scene in it that makes me cringe even just thinking about it. But too bad. Evan said, too bad, Taylor. You're going to watch it again. So March 25th, we're going to be talking about Gerald's Game with the Gold Leader, Evan Bushkar. An amazing month. 4 great films, 4 great guests. I love it. You just never know what you're going to get in this new format. I'm really scared. So I'm so excited for March. I hope you are as well. Can't wait to get into it. So stay tuned. Obviously, we'll be streaming those live. YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. And the audio always goes up on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and basically anywhere where audio podcasts are available. We'll see you in March, ghouls and goblins. Stay spooky. Thanks for listening. Catch you next week.